Hey, welcome back everyone. In this video, we will wrap up our discussion on Chapter 1 and learn about the various data types that exist and the different measurement levels. So let's get started. Here is a diagram that displays the timing of data, the different data types, and data measurement levels, and how they relate to one another. Starting point in analyzing data is to understand what kind of data you have. Having a solid understanding of these concepts is very important. Quantitative data is inherently numerical, so we're dealing with numbers here. In chapters 5 and 6, we'll talk more about discrete and continuous numbers and how to differentiate between the two. Qualitative data is when the measurement scale is inherently categorical. Some categorical examples would be marital status, like married, single, or divorced. Other categories include political affiliation, like Democratic or Republican or Independent, or even eye color, like brown, black, blue, green, and so on. Qualitative data are not typically numbers, but you do have to be careful here. Some qualitative data elements could be represented as a number. For example, zip codes are represented in numerical form, but these are considered a qualitative variable. Time series data is a set of consecutive data values that are observed at successive points in time. So for example, if you follow the stock market, this would be an example of time series data. Then there's cross-sectional data, which is a set of data values at a fixed point in time. You can almost look at this like a snapshot in time. For example, banks have snapshot data about its loan customers in the month of September. This is the type of data that I most frequently work with. So in this example, we have sales numbers for 4 different cities over 4 different years. In green, we have the sales numbers for Atlanta circled. That would be considered time series data because we have data from 2009, 2010, 11, and 12. This is consecutive points in time, and so we could see the sales trend whether it has gone up or down or remained flat over the 4 years. So in turquoise, we have highlighted the data for 2009. This is considered cross-sectional data since we're taking a single snapshot to just look at 2009, but over multiple cities, Atlanta, Boston, Cleveland, and Denver. Again, time series is a series of time periods and cross-sectional is a single snapshot in time. As you can see with this example, you can have both in the same set of data. Let's jump into the data measurement levels next. With data measurement levels, there's an order from low to high. At the lowest level, you are kind of limited in the types of analysis that you can conduct. And then we go all the way up to the highest level. The first and lowest level is nominal data. So these are categories, labels, or names. Some examples could be gender, your major, or your marital status. Also, assigning codes to categories, this generates nominal data as well. Next is ordinal data. So it's like categories, labels, and names, but now there's a rank or order to it. We have ordered categories, scaling, and this can also include satisfaction ratings. Ordinal measurement allows people to equate 2 or more observations and then rank them. So these 2 levels of data, these are considered qualitative. Our third type of data measurement level is interval data. This type of data can be measured, but it has no true zero. So for example, the most used example is temperature, where both the Fahrenheit and Celsius temperature scales have ordinal properties. Another example would be the time of day. 0 o'clock does not mean there is no time, it just means it is midnight and the start of a new interval. Ratio data is the last data measurement level, and a true zero does exist. Examples here would be height, age, or salary. 0 height just means it can be measured and it can start at whatever unit of measure you are using. For age, we can have a 20-year-old person, a 1-year-old person, or even a newborn baby at 0 years. Lastly, salary, you can have a true zero salary, meaning you don't have a salary, or you are working for free like an internship or volunteering. These 2 data levels are considered quantitative, so they are numbers involved. They are measurable, but the main difference between the two is that the interval data doesn't have a true zero, whereas ratio data does. Let's jump into our last topic, which is data categorization. The first step is to identify the variables in the dataset. Next, we want to determine whether the data is time series or cross-sectional. And then we want to determine if the factors are quantitative or qualitative. Lastly, we want to determine the level of data measurement levels, such as nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio. Let's review an example now. In this example, we look across the top of this spreadsheet and see the different columns in row 1 going from A to N. These are the 14 factors or variables, although you could argue that column A is an identifier, in this case, the name of the university. Next, you want to figure out if this data is time series or cross-sectional data. For example, when we look at this data, do you see anything that lets us know that there are multiple time periods going on? There's no mention of any years, months, hours, or dates. So we're going to assume that this data is cross-sectional. The next step is to determine which variables in our dataset are quantitative or numeric and which are qualitative. If we review column B, the state is a label or category, so this would be considered nominal. When we look at column C, this one is tricky, but you can see public and private are the labels, but it's just that I have been given a code that is a number. Therefore, columns A through C are considered categorical or qualitative in nature, and the data measurement levels here would be nominal. If you look to the right, we see SAT scores, number of applications, number of enrolled students, number of full-time and part-time students, tuition, percent of faculty with PhDs, and the student-to-faculty ratio. These are all numeric, so we know it's quantitative, and because they are measurable with a true zero, we can see that these are also ratio level data, because you could get a 0 on your SATs, for example. There could also have been 0 applications received or 0 new students enrolled. We could have a true 0 in any of these, and as a reminder, ratio level data is the highest level, meaning we could do all sorts of data analysis with columns D through N. Well, that wraps up this video covering data types and data measurement levels, and that wraps up our discussion on Chapter 1.